The massive alien ship hung above the lunar surface like a dark cloud. Its sleek purple hull reflected no light, seeming to swallow the stars behind it. Captain Jack Reed watched from the observation deck of Luna Station as smaller craft detached from the main vessel, carrying what the Dominion called gifts to humanity. Jack knew better. They weren't gifts. They were trash. 3 years had passed since the Dominion arrived in Earth's orbit. Their ships had darkened the skies of every major city on the planet. Humanity fought back with everything they had: missiles, jets, tanks, but it was like throwing stones at a thunderstorm. The aliens didn't even bother to fight back properly. They simply waited until Earth's government surrendered. "Captain Reed," a voice called from behind him. "The Overseer requests your presence for the unloading ceremony." Jack turned to face the young aide. The boy couldn't be older than 20, but his eyes looked ancient. Everyone's eyes looked that way now. "Tell them I'll be right there," Jack said, straightening his uniform, a mockery of his old Earth Defense Fleet outfit, now adorned with Dominion symbols that marked him as a liaison. The landing bay was already busy when Jack arrived. Dominion guards stood at attention, their armor making them look more like insects than the vaguely reptilian creatures beneath. Their oversized eyes tracked Jack as he walked past. Overseer Kell waited at the main platform. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, with mottled green skin and 4 arms, Kell was considered small by Dominion standards. "Captain Reed," Kell said, his translator turning the series of clicks and whistles into flat English. "Prompt as always. A commendable quality in your species." Jack forced a smile. "We're grateful for your generosity, Overseer." The words tasted like ash in his mouth, but Jack had learned to play his part. As liaison between what remained of human leadership and the Dominion, his job was to keep the aliens happy and his people alive. The bay doors opened, and the first containers began to arrive. Dominion workers, members of various subjugated species, unloaded crates of machinery, electronics, and metal scraps. "This shipment comes from our recent fleet upgrade," Kell explained, gesturing with his lower arms, while his upper limbs remained formally clasped. "The materials are, of course, obsolete by our standards, but should prove quite advanced for humans." "We appreciate your consideration," Jack replied, watching as the workers opened one of the containers. Inside were what appeared to be engine parts, weapons components, and control panels, all damaged or incomplete. The Dominion's idea of charity was to give humans their garbage and expect gratitude. But as Jack moved closer to inspect the delivery, something caught his eye. Among the jumble of alien tech, he spotted what looked like a neural transmitter, similar to designs he'd seen in Dominion ships during the brief tour they'd allowed during the peace negotiations. "Is something wrong, Captain?" Kell asked, noticing Jack's interest. Jack quickly looked away. "Not at all. Just admiring the craftsmanship. Your technology is impressive, even when decommissioned." Kell made a sound that Jack had learned to recognize as pride. "Yes, well, even our discarded technology is centuries beyond your most advanced systems." The unloading continued for hours. Jack carefully noted every component that seemed unusual or potentially valuable, storing the information in his memory rather than risking a digital record that might be monitored. Later that night, after filing his official report, Jack sat alone in his small quarters on the lunar base. He pulled out a hand-drawn map from beneath his mattress and added new markings, recording the locations where today's most interesting trash had been sent for processing. A soft knock interrupted his work. Jack quickly hid the map and opened the door to find Lisa Reyes, one of the few scientists allowed to study Dominion technology. "Did you see what they brought today?" she whispered, glancing nervously down the corridor before slipping into his room. "I did," Jack replied, closing the door. "Including some neural interface components they probably didn't mean to give us." Lisa's eyes widened. "I knew it. I detected unusual energy signatures, but they rushed us through the inspection." "They're getting careless," Jack said. "They don't think we're smart enough to understand what we're looking at." He pulled out his map again and showed Lisa the pattern he'd been tracking. Over the last 6 months, they've accidentally included components that, together, could form the basis of something big. Today's delivery was the missing piece I've been waiting for. Lisa studied the map. Even if we had all these parts, we'd need someone who understands how they work together. I know someone, Jack said. Dr. Emma Wells. She was developing countermeasures before the invasion. The Dominion thinks she's just analyzing their scrap metal in Australia now. The woman who lost her family during the London descent, Lisa asked. Jack nodded grimly. The same, and she has more reason than most to want the Dominion gone. 3 days later, Jack's transport shuttle touched down at the Perth processing facility. The sprawling complex was built to sort and distribute the Dominion's gifts across Earth. Armed guards, humans working for the aliens, nodded at Jack's credentials. He found Emma in her lab, surrounded by disassembled alien tech. At 45, her once dark hair was now streaked with gray, and deep lines marked her face. But her eyes burned with the same intensity Jack remembered from before the invasion. Captain Reed, she said without looking up from her work, the Dominion's favorite pet comes to visit the colonies. Jack winced at the bitterness in her voice. We need to talk, Emma. Privately. She finally looked up, noticing his expression. Without a word, she led him to a small storage room and closed the door. What is it? Jack took a deep breath. They've made a mistake. A series of them. Actually. He showed her pictures he'd secretly taken of the neural components. These aren't meant for us, he explained. But together with the other pieces they've gifted us over the past months. Emma's eyes widened as she understood. These could be adapted to human neural patterns, with the right modifications. Could you do it? Jack asked. Build something they don't expect. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Jack with something he hadn't seen in years. Hope. Not just something, Captain, she whispered. A nightmare. Their nightmare. Outside the storage room window, a Dominion ship passed overhead, its shadow briefly darkening the room. Neither of them spoke until the light returned. They think they're gods, Emma said, clutching the photos. But they've forgotten something important about humans. What's that? Jack asked. Emma's smile was cold. We've always been good at turning other people's trash into treasure. And we've always been good at war. 2 months after their meeting in Perth, Jack and Emma stood at the entrance of an abandoned coal mine deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Cold wind whistled through the trees as they watched a truck approach, its headlights off despite the growing darkness. Are you sure about this place? Emma asked, pulling her jacket tighter. Jack nodded. The mountain blocks Dominion scans, and they don't pay much attention to this region anyway. Too remote, too unimportant. The truck stopped, and 3 people climbed out. Jack recognized Lisa Reyes immediately. The other 2 were strangers. A large man with massive hands, and a thin woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Captain Reed, Dr. Wells, Lisa said. Meet our new team members. This is Tom Miller, former chief mechanic for the Air Force. The big man stepped forward. His beard was wild, but his eyes were clear and focused. Captain, he said, shaking Jack's hand with a grip that could bend metal. And this is Marcus Brown, Lisa continued. He was security for Google before the invasion. Now he's our best chance at staying hidden. The thin woman nodded but didn't offer her hand. I set up jamming fields around the perimeter. As far as the Dominion is concerned, this place doesn't exist. Inside the mine, they had transformed the main chamber into a workshop. Lights powered by hidden generators hung from the ceiling. Tables covered with tools and equipment lined the walls. In the center of the room sat crates of alien technology, all smuggled from processing centers over the past months. Welcome to the forge, Jack said, spreading his arms. Not pretty, but it's ours. Emma moved immediately to the crates. You got more than I expected. People are taking risks, Jack replied. Once word spread about what we're doing, volunteers appeared. Tom whistled as he examined a piece of Dominion engine. This is beautiful work. Horrible aliens, but Dan, they know their engineering. Can you make it work with our systems? Emma asked. Tom's laugh echoed in the cave. Lady, I once built a working helicopter from 3 crashed planes and a tractor engine. This. He tapped the alien metal. This is just a new puzzle. For the next several weeks, the team worked tirelessly. More people joined them. Engineers, ex-military, even a few hackers who had managed to break into Dominion systems during the early days of the invasion. Emma focused on the neural interface components. Every night, she fell asleep at her workbench, often waking with new ideas that drove their progress forward. The problem isn't connecting to it, she explained one day as the core team gathered around her workstation. It's that it was designed for Dominion biology. Their brains process information differently. Can we adapt it? Lisa asked. Emma smiled and held up what looked like a metal helmet covered in wires and alien tech. Already have. This is our prototype. Who's testing it? Marcus asked, eyeing the device warily. The room fell silent. They all knew the risks. The Dominion neural systems were powerful but dangerous. No one knew what would happen when connected to a human brain. I will, Jack said finally. Emma shook her head. Too risky. We need you for. For what? Jack interrupted. If this doesn't work, there's no next step. I'm doing it. No one argued further. That night, Jack sat in a chair in the center of the forge. Emma attached electrodes to his temples while Tom made final adjustments to the helmet. The connection should be mild at first, Emma explained. Just try to feel the system. Don't push it. Jack nodded, his mouth dry. Let's do this. Emma lowered the helmet onto his head. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Jack gasped. His body went rigid, his eyes wide. Jack, Emma called, reaching for the helmet. Wait, Jack whispered. I can see it. See what? Lisa asked. Everything. The whole system. It's like it's alive. His voice was filled with wonder. For 10 minutes, Jack sat motionless except for his eyes, which darted back and forth as if reading an invisible text. Then Emma removed the helmet, and Jack collapsed forward, Tom barely catching him before he hit the floor. When Jack woke hours later, the entire team was gathered around his bed. How do you feel? Emma asked. Jack sat up slowly. Like I understand them now. Not the aliens, the machines. I could feel how they work together, how they think. Machines don't think, Marcus said. These do, Jack replied. Or they can, with the right pilot. Over the next month, progress accelerated. Tom and his engineers assembled components for what was beginning to look like a ship. It wasn't large, about the size of a commercial airplane, but its design was unlike anything human or Dominion. Its hull was a patchwork of different alien metals, pieced together like a puzzle. The engine core combined 3 different Dominion technologies that were never meant to work together. And at its heart was the neural interface, now expanded to connect with every system on the ship. It's ugly, Tom said as they stood back to admire their work. But it'll fly. Will it fight? Marcus asked. Emma pointed to what looked like ordinary pipes running along the hull. These are weapon systems from 3 different Dominion destroyer classes. Individually, they're just trash. Together, they'll punch through anything the aliens have. What about detection? Lisa asked. The moment we power up, they'll find us. Emma smiled. That's the beautiful part. The hull absorbed scanner beams instead of reflecting them. The energy signatures appear as background radiation. As far as the Dominion is concerned, this ship doesn't exist until it's too late. Jack ran his hand along the ship's hull. The metal felt warm, almost alive under his touch. What do we call it? Tom asked. They all looked at the strange, menacing craft they had built from the Dominion's garbage. In the dim light of the forge, its asymmetrical shape cast shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. "Nightmare," Jack said. "We call it the Nightmare." That night, as the others celebrated, Jack slipped away and entered the ship alone. He sat in the pilot's chair and placed his hands on the neural interface panels. He didn't activate the system, not fully, but even the passive connection sent images flooding through his mind. Stars, open space, and Dominion ships burning. Soon, he whispered to the ship, and somehow, he knew it heard him. 6 months of secret work had transformed the pile of alien trash into something deadly. The Nightmare hung in the massive underground chamber, supported by makeshift scaffolding. Its black hull seemed to drink the light from the workshop lamps. Emma stood before a group of 20 engineers and pilots, pointing to a diagram of the ship. "The final connections are complete," she announced. "All systems are integrated with the neural interface." Tom Miller stepped forward, wiping grease from his massive hands. "Engine tests show power levels 3 times higher than we expected. Whatever the Dominion used these parts for, they never pushed them to their limits." Jack watched from the back of the room. He hadn't slept well in weeks. Every night, dreams of the ship filled his mind. Dreams of flying through space, hunting Dominion vessels. Sometimes he woke up certain he could feel the ship calling to him. "What about weapons?" Marcus asked. Lisa stepped up to the diagram. "We've installed 5 different weapon systems. None of them were meant to work together, but we've modified the power distribution. Based on our calculations, they'll cut through Dominion shields like they're not even there." A tall woman raised her hand. Anna Jones had been a test pilot before the invasion. Now she was one of 6 pilots trained to fly the Nightmare. "What about the neural load?" she asked. The simulation showed dangerous levels of brain activity after 30 minutes of connection. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the risk. The neural interface allowed the pilot to control the ship with their mind, to feel the ship as an extension of their body. But the human brain wasn't built for such a connection. "We're still working on that," Emma admitted. "For now, we recommend keeping connections under 20 minutes. Jack stepped forward. "That won't be enough in a real fight." "The simulations show," Emma began. "I don't care what the simulations show," Jack interrupted. "I've connected with it. The ship needs more. It needs commitment." Emma's eyes narrowed. "You've been connecting without authorization." "That's dangerous, Jack." "It's necessary," he replied. "And I'll be the primary pilot when we launch." "That's not," Emma started, but Jack cut her off again. "It's decided. My mind is already linked to the ship. It knows me." The strange certainty in his voice silenced the room. No one, not even Emma, challenged him further. The next day, they prepared for the first full system test. Jack sat in the pilot's chair as Emma attached neural sensors to his temples and the back of his neck. "This is a test only," she reminded him. "Don't push for full integration. Just establish connection, run basic systems check, then disconnect. Understand?" Jack nodded, but his eyes were already focused on something only he could see. Emma stepped back and gave the signal. "Powering neural interface in 3, 2, 1. The connection hit Jack like a wave. In an instant, he wasn't just sitting in a chair. He was the Nightmare. He could feel every part of the ship. The engines thrumming like a heartbeat, the weapons systems tingling like fingers ready to strike, the sensors stretching out like curious eyes. In the control room, Emma watched the monitors with growing concern. "His neural activity is off the charts," she told Lisa. "We should shut it down." Inside the ship, Jack opened his eyes, both his human eyes and the ship's sensors. He could see the cave around him, but also beyond it, through layers of rock, feeling the mountain's weight above him. "Jack, can you hear me?" Emma's voice came through the comms. "Your readings are dangerously high. We're shutting down in 30 seconds. "No," Jack replied, his voice oddly calm. I need to test the full capacity. Before Emma could respond, Jack activated the engine systems. The ship hummed to life, its makeshift supports groaning under the sudden power surge. "Jack, stop," Emma shouted. "The supports aren't designed for active engines." But Jack wasn't listening. He pushed deeper into the connection, feeling the ship respond to his thoughts. The Nightmare trembled, eager to break free from its restraints. In a moment of clarity, Jack realized what he was doing and pulled back. The engines powered down, and the ship settled back into its supports. I'm sorry," he gasped, his mind struggling to separate from the ship. When the neural interface finally disconnected, Jack collapsed in the chair. Blood trickled from his nose, and his eyes were bloodshot. Emma helped him to the medical area, where he lay shivering despite the warm blankets around him. "What happened in there?" she asked once his vitals had stabilized. Jack stared at the ceiling. "It was more than I expected. The ship, it's not just machinery, Emma. There's something else there." "What do you mean?" "It's like it has feelings, desires." Jack turned to look at her. "It wants to hunt." Emma frowned. "That's the interface affecting your brain. We need to adjust the settings." Jack shook his head. "No, it's not a malfunction. It's what makes the Nightmare special." Later that night, the core team met to discuss what had happened. "We should delay the launch," Emma argued. Jack's reaction to the interface is concerning. "We don't have time," Marcus countered. "Our sources say the Dominion is planning a new wave of security protocols. If we don't move soon, we'll lose our window." Tom looked troubled. Did anyone else notice the ship's hull after Jack's test? The metal changed color where his hands touched the controls. "It's darker, almost like." "Like what?" Lisa asked. "Like it absorbed something from him," Tom finished. The team fell silent, considering the implications. 3 days later, despite Emma's concerns, they prepared for the Nightmare's first real flight. The massive hidden doors in the mountainside opened to reveal a cloudy night sky. Jack sat in the pilot's chair, the neural interface humming as it connected to his mind. This time, he was ready for the rush of sensation. "Neural connection stable," Emma reported from the control room. "All systems online." "Jack, how do you feel?" Jack smiled. "We feel ready." Emma caught the strange wording, but had no time to question it as the Nightmare's engines fired up. The ship rose from its cradle, hovering in the cave for a moment before shooting out into the night. As the Nightmare soared into the clouds, Jack felt a sense of freedom he hadn't known since before the invasion. The ship responded to his thoughts faster than he could form them, almost anticipating his desires. High above Earth, hidden from Dominion sensors, the Nightmare performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. It twisted and turned with a grace that defied its patchwork construction. And deep in Jack's mind, a voice that wasn't entirely his own whispered, "Soon, we hunt." The alarm blared through the forge at 3:42 a.m., jolting everyone from sleep. Marcus burst into the main control room, his face pale. "Dominion ships," he announced to the gathering team. "A cruiser and 2 scout vessels just entered Earth orbit. They're heading for the Atlantic Processing Station." Emma pushed her way to the front. "Why? That station has been operational for months without inspection." "They detected energy fluctuations during our test flight," Lisa explained, studying the data on her tablet. "They're sending an inspection team to investigate." Jack stood silently by the wall, his eyes distant. Since the test flight 3 days ago, he had been different, quieter, more focused, as if listening to a voice no one else could hear. "How long until they reach the station?" he asked. 2 hours, Marcus replied. "And they'll find evidence of our thefts. The missing components, the altered records, everything." The room erupted in panicked discussion. They had planned for their first strike carefully, targeting a small Dominion outpost near Neptune. They weren't ready for a direct confrontation above Earth. "We need to evacuate," someone said. "Scatter and regroup later." No, Jack's voice cut through the noise. We fight. Emma stared at him. The nightmare hasn't been fully tested. The weapons systems will work, Jack finished. He looked around the room, his eyes strangely bright. This is what we built it for. We either use it now or lose everything. No one argued. Deep down, they all knew he was right. 40 minutes later, Jack sat in the pilot's chair as the final preparations were made. Emma attached the neural interface connectors with practiced hands. 20 minutes, she reminded him. That's the safe limit for neural connection. Jack nodded, but they both knew the coming battle would take longer. Be careful, Emma added quietly. The ship responds to your emotions. If you lose control, I won't, Jack promised, though something in his voice made Emma step back. As the neural interface activated, Jack closed his eyes. The familiar rush of connection washed over him, but this time he didn't fight it. He let himself sink deeper into the bond with the ship, until the line between man and machine blurred. We are ready, thought Jack, or perhaps it was the ship thinking through Jack. The mountain doors opened, and the nightmare rose silently into the night sky. Its hull, designed to absorb rather than reflect, was invisible to both human eyes and Dominion sensors. High above Earth, the Dominion cruiser approached the orbital station. Twice the size of the largest human spacecraft ever built, it bristled with weapons and scanning equipment. The two scout ships flanked it, their sleek forms cutting through the blackness of space. Inside the nightmare, Jack watched through the ship's sensors. He could see the energy signatures of the Dominion vessels, feel their movements as if they were creatures swimming in water. Approaching target, he reported, his voice oddly calm. Weapons hot. In the control room back at the forge, Emma and the others gathered around the communications array. They had no video feed. The nightmare systems were incompatible with their equipment, but they could hear Jack's voice. Be careful, Emma whispered, though Jack couldn't hear her. Remember who you are. The Dominion cruiser had just docked with the orbital station when its sensors detected something unusual, a brief energy spike where nothing should be. Before the alien crew could react, the nightmare appeared as if from nowhere, its weapons already firing. The first blast struck the cruiser's engine section, cutting through shields that had been designed to stop conventional attacks. This was no conventional weapon. It was a hybrid of technologies never meant to work together, powered by a human mind that understood rage in ways the Dominion never could. The scout ships broke formation, turning to face the threat. They fired energy beams that should have vaporized the smaller vessel, but the nightmare moved with impossible speed, twisting between the attacks as if it could predict them. Inside, Jack laughed. He could feel the Dominion ships, sensed their confusion, their fear. The neural interface showed him not just their positions but their weaknesses. Each Dominion vessel became a puzzle of vulnerable points, connecting in his mind like a deadly constellation. The nightmare fired again, its weapons changing frequency to match the scout ship's shields. One vessel exploded in a silent flash of light. The other attempted to flee, but the nightmare pursued, moving like a predator after wounded prey. Jack, report status. Emma's voice came through the comms, tense with worry. Jack didn't answer immediately. He was too focused on the hunt, the ship's consciousness merging with his own until they moved as one being. The second scout ship died under his weapons, breaking apart into spinning debris. Only the cruiser remained, its massive bulk trying to disengage from the station. Jack felt a surge of cold rage. These were the creatures who had conquered Earth, who had killed Emma's family, who had reduced humanity to servants. The nightmare responded to his emotions, its weapons charging to full power. Jack, Emma's voice cut through his thoughts. Your neural readings are dangerously high. You need to disconnect. But Jack wouldn't stop. The nightmare surged forward, firing all weapons simultaneously. The cruiser's shields failed under the assault, and huge sections of its hull tore away into space. Jack guided the Nightmare in close, feeling a savage joy as the ship tore into the cruiser like claws ripping flesh. Warning signals flashed across the neural interface, but he ignored them, pushing deeper into the connection. The Dominion ship broke apart, its reactor core destabilizing. Jack watched through the Nightmare's sensors as alien crew members were sucked into space, their bodies freezing instantly in the vacuum. "I see you," he whispered to the dying aliens. "I see all of you now." As the cruiser's remains drifted away from the station, Jack finally pulled back from the deep connection. Blood ran from his nose and ears, but he was smiling. "Target eliminated," he reported, his voice hoarse. "The station is safe." Back at the forge, the control room erupted in cheers. Humanity had won its first victory against the Dominion. But Emma wasn't celebrating. She stared at the neural readings from Jack's interface, her face grim. "Something's wrong," she told Lisa quietly. "These patterns, they're not entirely human anymore." When the Nightmare returned to base 3 hours later, the team rushed to meet their hero. But when Jack emerged from the ship, they fell silent. His eyes had changed. They were darker, with strange flecks of silver that seemed to move when he blinked. More disturbing was the ship itself. The hull, once a patchwork of different metals, had somehow changed. The sections had merged together more completely, and strange patterns had formed on the surface, patterns that looked disturbingly like neural pathways in a human brain. As Jack walked past his cheering teammates, only Emma noticed how his movements had changed, becoming more fluid, more predatory. And only Emma saw how, when Jack thought no one was looking, he reached back to touch the Nightmare's hull with an expression that looked almost like longing. In the 3 weeks since the destruction of the Dominion cruiser, everything had changed. The once secret forge had become a buzzing center of activity. Word had spread through hidden human networks about the ship that had taken down a Dominion cruiser. Volunteers poured in, engineers, pilots, soldiers, all eager to join the fight. But no one was allowed near the Nightmare itself. It sat in a separate chamber, guarded not by humans, but by automated systems Jack had designed. No one questioned this arrangement. No one except Emma. She stood in her lab, studying the latest scans of Jack's brain. The patterns were unlike anything she had seen before, neural pathways rewiring themselves, new connections forming where none should exist. "How bad is it?" Lisa asked, joining her at the display. Emma sighed. "I don't know. His brain activity is off the charts, but he's functioning better than ever. His reaction time, memory, problem solving, all enhanced." "Then maybe it's not a problem," Lisa suggested. "Maybe it's evolution." "It's not evolution when it happens overnight," Emma replied sharply. "And it's not just Jack. The ship is changing too." Before Lisa could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. They rushed to the main control room, where Marcus was directing operations. "Dominion fleet incoming," he announced. 12 ships, including a dreadnought. "They're heading straight for us." "How did they find us?" Tom demanded. "They didn't," Marcus replied. "They're conducting a sweep of the entire region. But they'll detect us soon enough." All eyes turned to Jack, who stood silently in the corner. In the weeks since the battle, he had spoken less and less, spending most of his time with the Nightmare. "Jack." Emma stepped toward him. "We need to evacuate." Jack shook his head, his silver-flecked eyes reflecting the red emergency lights. "No. They're hunting us now. If we run, they'll never stop." "We can't fight a dreadnought," Tom argued. "That thing carries enough firepower to glass half a continent." A cold smile crossed Jack's face. "The Nightmare can fight it. We're stronger now." Emma noticed how he said "we" instead of "it" when referring to the ship. She tried one more time. "Jack, your neural readings are dangerously unstable. Another deep connection could permanently damage your brain." "Or complete the process," Jack replied cryptically. Before anyone could stop him, he turned and walked toward the Nightmare's chamber. The doors opened at his approach, then sealed behind him. In the control room, screens lit up as the Nightmare systems came online. "He's launching," Marcus reported, his voice tight with tension. Emma rushed to the neural monitoring station. "Jack, please, at least let us monitor your vitals during the fight." There was a long pause before Jack's voice came through the speakers. It sounded different, deeper, with a strange harmonic quality. "Very well, Emma. For you." The mountain doors opened, and the Nightmare rose into the night sky. Emma gasped when she saw it on the external cameras. The ship had changed dramatically. Its hull was now a seamless black surface that seemed to bend light around it. The weapons systems had integrated more completely into the structure, like natural extensions rather than added components. "My God," Tom whispered. "What is it becoming?" High above Earth, the Dominion fleet moved in a standard search pattern. The Dreadnought, a massive vessel the size of a small city, formed the center of their formation. Smaller ships circled it, their sensors scanning the planet below. Inside the Nightmare, Jack connected to the neural interface. This time, there was no resistance, no sense of separation between himself and the ship. They flowed together like water mixing with water. The Nightmare approached the fleet from below, visible only as a slight distortion against the stars. Its new hull didn't just absorb energy, it bent it, creating a camouflage effect that made the ship nearly invisible. In the lead scout ship, a Dominion sensor operator noticed something unusual, a momentary shadow that shouldn't exist. Before he could report it, the Nightmare struck. Unlike the previous battle, there was no hesitation, no learning curve. The Nightmare tore through the first scout ship before its crew could even raise shields. The second and third followed in rapid succession, their debris creating a cloud that confused the remaining ship's sensors. In the Forge's control room, Emma and the team watched in stunned silence. The neural readings from Jack showed activity in parts of the brain that should have been impossible. "He's not fighting like a human," Marcus observed. "Those maneuvers, that precision. It's like watching a machine." "Or something else entirely," Emma whispered. The Dominion fleet broke formation, trying to surround the attacker that they could barely detect. The Dreadnought launched fighters, filling space with small, agile craft. The Nightmare moved among them like a shark through schools of fish, destroying fighters with short, precise energy bursts. Each kill made the ship stronger, as if it were absorbing energy from its victims. Finally, only the Dreadnought remained. It fired its main cannon, a beam of concentrated energy that could split a planet's crust. The Nightmare didn't dodge. It met the beam head-on. For a moment, Emma thought the ship had been destroyed. Then the sensors showed something impossible. The Nightmare had absorbed the energy blast and was using it to power its own weapons. The Dreadnought never had a chance. The Nightmare tore it apart piece by piece, methodically destroying weapons, engines, and finally life support. As the massive ship died, Jack broadcast a message on all Dominion frequencies. "You thought us primitive. You gave us your scraps and expected gratitude. Now you face what we built from your trash. We are the Nightmare you created." The message repeated in every Dominion language, ensuring they all understood. Back at the Forge, the control room was silent as the Nightmare returned. Everyone had seen what it could do, what Jack could do. The line between hero and monster had never seemed so thin. When the ship landed, Emma was the first to approach. The chamber doors opened, and Jack emerged. He was changed. His skin was pale, with dark veins visible beneath. His eyes were now completely silver, reflecting light like mirrors. When he moved, it was with an inhuman grace. "Jack." Emma's voice shook slightly. "Are you still in there?" Jack tilted his head, studying her as if from a great distance. Then his expression softened. "Yes, Emma. Part of me is still Jack Reed." He looked back at the Nightmare, its hull seeming to pulse in sync with his heartbeat. "But I am more now. We are more." "What happens next?" she asked. Jack smiled, and for a moment, Emma could see the man she had known. Then the alien coldness returned to his eyes. The Dominion has many worlds, Emma, many ships, many resources. He turned to look at the assembled humans. They will come in greater numbers now, afraid of what they don't understand, afraid of what they created. He placed a hand on the nightmare's hull, and the metal seemed to flow slightly toward his touch. We will be waiting, and we will show them what humanity can build from trash. As Jack spoke, Emma noticed something on the ship's hull, patterns forming and dissolving like thoughts made visible. And for the first time, she understood that the nightmare wasn't just a ship anymore. It was something new, born from human ingenuity and alien technology, fueled by human rage and alien power. Neither fully machine nor fully alive, but a nightmare given form, and it was only the beginning.